Good day everyone. Today we will talk about technology and students assessment. Technology is just a new set of tools which are useful only if they add value to the learning experiences. Technology has long played a role in assessment, becoming a widespread in 1970s with the popularization marker for optical readers for vowel tests. Technology facilitates formative assessment, from homework and pop quizzes to standardized tests. Assessments plays a vital role in helping determining how well students learn. Now, technology is offering new ways to conduct assessments, allowing educators to facilitate more overreaching testing experiences and to gather feedback on a more frequent basis.
Educational technology assessment. Educational assessment with technology is a bit different from the traditional assessment, wherein the teacher used pencils, pens, and papers to do the assessment. But this one is more techy and much easier than the traditional way. With this assessment, the teacher uses technology-based tools in order to assess and evaluate the students' progress, learning acquisition, and to see where they are having troubles or having a hard time to understand a certain topic. The teacher might use formative assessment and or summative assessment. So some of you might be confused or asking yourselves about these two assessments. So by that, I will provide information for you to have a clear understanding about from one of the two assessments. So I will be discussing the formative assessment. What is formative assessment? According to Glossary Education Reform 2014, so basically it is a form of assessment that teachers do during the discussion or a lecture. What is the goal of this assessment? The goal of this assessment is to collect information to improve the teacher's instruction and the learning acquisition of students while it is happening. It is more difficult than the other form of assessment because you need to improve or change your teaching strategy right away during the discussion if your students are having difficulties in understanding the lesson that being discussing. How this will work? So for example, there is a tool called CRS, or the Classroom Response System. Using this system, each of the students in the classroom have handheld device that is connected to the teacher's computer. So during the discussion, the teacher can ask questions that the students will answer through their devices. And this will give the results right after the students answer those questions. So the result of this assessment is in graph form. So this will be the basis for the teacher to assess the students, and so as the students assess themselves to see if they are cope with the topic that being discussing. So that is how technology-based assessment works.
Isang mapagpalang araw sa inyong lahat. Ako si Raven Joy Regala at ang aking tatalakayin ngayon ay tungkol sa summative assessment. Ito ang karaniwang ibinibigay at isinasagawa sa isang classroom. Ibinibigay ito ng ating guro upang ito ay maging sukatan sa nalalaman o natututunan ng isang bata o mag-aaral. Upang malaman ng isang guro kung sila ba ay may natututunan sa topic o lesson na kanyang ipinaliliwanag, binibigyan niya ito ng summative assessment. Upang sa ganun din ay madali niyang mabigyan ng marka o feedback ang kanyang mga estudyante sa mga kasagutang ibinibigay nito. At sa ganitong paraan din niya, makikita kung may pinag-i-improve pa ba ang isang mag-aaral o ang isang batang sa kanyang klase. Also, technologies allows for different kinds of summative assessment tulad nga ng mga digital na presentasyon, video, o ano pa man na maaaring maisip ng guro o mag-aaral upang mas maipakita nila ang kanilang natututunan sa isang classroom. Teachers can short answer essay, tutorials, stimulation, games, case, and study. Multiple choice, essay project, portfolio, stimulation, presentation, paper, virtual, labs, case studies. Ayun lamang po at maraming salamat.
Pinagpalang araw sa inyong lahat. Ako si Ginoong Lata Reyes, ang magtatalakay tungkol sa student assessment in teaching and learning. Karamihan sa mga eskola ay nakatuon sa kahalagahan ng pagkakasan ng estudyante sa pagtuturo at pag-aaral sa mataas na edukasyon. Lingid sa ating kaalaman na ang student assessment sa critical aspect of the teaching and learning process. Alam naman natin, mahalaga para sa mga guro na masuri ang epektibo ng kanilang pagtuturo sa pamamagitan ng pagsukat kung hanggang saan tuturo ang mga mag-aaral sa loob ng silid-aralan. Ayon kay Martin Stassen sa kanyang librong Course-Based Review and Assessment, define assessment as the systematic collections and analysis of information to improve student learning. These definitions captures the essential task of student assessment in teaching and learning process. Ayon pa sa kanya, upang malaman kung gaano ka-epektibo ang pagtuturo ng mga guro, kailangan maglagay ng specific learning objectives. Dito iiral ang CAP na tinatawag, o mas kilalang Cognitive, Affective, Psychomotor. Tingid sa ating kaalaman na ito ang batayan ng mga guro kung mayroong pagkatutong nagaganap sa loob ng silid-aralan. Dagdag pa niya sa kanyang pag-aaral, as a result, teachers are able to institutionalize effective teaching tools and revise ineffective ones in their pedagogy. So, kung hindi mo nakamit yung learning objectives mo sa silid-aralan, maaari mong baguhin ang inyong pagtuturo sa paraan na epektibo. Lingid sa ating kaalaman na ang pagsusukat ng kakayahan ng estudyante ay mahalaga para sa mga guro at sa estudyante. Dahil dito malalaman kung nakamit mo ang learning objectives mo para sa mga estudyante. Ayon sa libro ni Wiggins at McCaghead na Understanding by Design, mayroon silang framework na ibinigay para sa classroom instructions, which is ang backward design, na emphasize the critical role of assessment. So what is background design? Background design is a process that educators use to design learning experience and instructional techniques to achieve specific learning goals. So, naniniwala si Wiggins at McCaghead na ang pagkatuto ay nabubuo sa loob ng silid-aralan at nakadepende din ito sa paraan ng pagtuturo ng mga guro. Ayon naman kay Brookfield, student assessment then not only enable teachers to measure the effectiveness of their teaching, but is also useful in developing the rationale for pedagogical.
Per assessment, provide a structured learning process for students to critique and provide feedback to each other on their work. Per assessment involves students taking responsibility to assessing the work of their peers against set assessment criteria. Self-assessment is the process of looking at oneself in order to assess one's identity. It is one of the motives that drive self-evaluation, self-verification, and self-enhancement. Self-assessment is one's learning and it enables to develop their skill.
So dumako naman tayo sa aking report, ang essays, exam at panghuli ang time-constrained individual assessment. Ako si Junior Romero ng group number 4, so ito ang aking report. Unahin natin ang essays. According sa essays, this is the piece of writing that goes the author's own argument but the definition is not vague o hindi malabo ang definition o pagbibigay nito ng impormasyon sa kanyang essay o sanaysay. Ito rin ay isang informal o formal na paraan para makapagsulat ng isang may akda sa isang argumento, sa isang issue o napapanahon na issue sa kasalukuyan o hindi. At ang importance naman nito ay creativity. So dito makikita natin na halimbawa tayo mga estudyante, ako bilang estudyante, mag-iisip tayo ng mga napapanahong issue, mga nais natin na pag-usapan, nais natin isulat sa ating essay o sanaysay. Mag-iisip tayo, magkakaroon tayo ng creativity para ilabas yung talento natin kung paano natin isulat ang isang argumento na merong patunay, merong hindi malabong impormasyon o definition. Sumunod naman ay ang exam. So base sa exam, you take the test to show your knowledge or ability in a particular subject. So ito naman ay isang formal test na kung saan ibinibigay ng isang guro o teacher sa isa estudyante para masubukan ang knowledge at abilidad nito sa mga natutunan niya sa previous or current lesson. Importance naman nito ay ang measurement of knowledge or abilities. So, dahil dito, na may measure o nakikita ng teacher kung hanggang saan na ba yung kakayahan ng estudyante, kung may natutunan ba siya o wala. So, panghuli naman yung time-constrained individual assessment. So, according dito, this is the assessment that must be completed with a limited time frame. So ibig sabihin isang assessment ito na binibigay sa mga estudyante na mayroong oras ng pagpapasa. Halimbawa, project, yung mga ganun. Pero iba ito, assessment naman ito na kung saan mayroong hangganan, parang isang test talaga na mayroong oras, karampatang oras para matapos. So ang importance naman nito, time management. Siyempre bilang mag-aaral, bilang mga learner at mga teacher, future teacher at mismo mga teacher, nabibigyan nila yung time frame at the same time nagkakaroon ng time management sa mga gawain, sa mga lesson, mga pinag-aaralan.
Good day everyone, I am Christina Andres and I am here to share to you about the purpose of different types of assessment. But first, let me define the word assessment. Assessment is the systematic basis of making inferences about the learning and development of the students. In every classroom, assessments generally have one of the three purposes. The first purpose of assessment is assessment of learning. The assessments here are a way to find out what the students have learned and if they're aligning to curriculum or to the grade level standards. It is a summative measure of what a student has learned after the discussion or after giving the instruction has ended, such as unit tests, mid-year exams, and final examinations. Assessments of learning are usually grade-based like exams, quizzes, and final exams. The second purpose is the assessment for learning. It provides you with a clear snapshot of the student's learning and understanding as you teach, allowing you to adjust everything from your classroom management strategies to your lesson plans as you go. It is a formative measure of what the students already knows and does not know, so the teacher may plan future instructions accordingly. Assessment for learning should always be ongoing and actionable. When you are creating assessments, keep some of these in your mind. What do my students need to know? What did my students take away from the lesson? Did my students find the lesson too easy or too difficult? Or did my teaching strategies reach students effectively? The common types of assessment for learning are formative assessment and diagnostic assessment. Lastly, the next purpose of assessment is the assessment as learning. These are the actively involved students in the learning process. It teaches critical thinking skills, problem solving, and encourage students to set achievable goals of themselves and objectively measure their progress. Assessment as learning it occurs when the assessment is the learning activity. These are also known as a performance assessment and typically include a scoring rubric. Assessment as learning helps to encourage the students in the learning process. Some examples of this assessment are summative and peer assessment.
Hello everyone, I am Mary Rose Santura and I will be reporting about the types of assessment. Let us first talk about the diagnostic assessment. Diagnostic assessment or pretest is a type of assessment
ay sa realidad upang makarelate ang mga mag-aaral.
Criterion reference assessment compared to the score of individual student to a learning standard and performance level independent of other students around them. In the classroom, this means measuring student performance against grade level, standard, and can include end-of-unit or final test to assess student understanding. Outside the classroom, criterion reference assessment appear in professional licensing exam, high school exit exam, and citizenship test, where the student must answer a certain percentage of question correctly to the pass. Criterion reference assessment are most often compared with norm reference assessment, while they're both evaluable types of assessment of learning. Criterion reference assessment don't measure students against their peers. Instead, each student is graded on their own strength. Non-references assessment are most useful when measuring student achievement to determine language ability, grade readiness, physical development, college admission decision, need for additional learning support, while they're not usually the type of assessment you deliver in your classroom. Change or you have access to data from past tests that can give you valuable insight into the student performance. These are examples of criterion reference tests: chapter, section, or unit test, grade level test, constitution test, basic skill test, high school graduate exam, content or subject center test, and that's all.